Well, after such a long wait, actually the Monetary Policy Committee has reduced the interest rate by 25 basis points. If you read between the lines, until last policy, Governor Das used to talk of an inflation target of 4%. In fact, that is what spooked the markets because all the inflation prints would come in at 5%, 5.2, etc. But there's one thing I really missed, which I used to look forward to with Governor Das.
I know what that is.
Tell me.
Hey Aarti,
Fine.
large smile on your face. What's happening today? What makes you so happy?
Well, after such a long wait, actually the Monetary Policy Committee has reduced the interest rate by 25 basis points. Now this 25 basis may not look like much, but I think it signals the direction, right? We've been on a tightening cycle for so long, and then they were on hold for such a long time, and we kept writing editorials that they should cut because growth is looking very weak, right?
Yeah. So that's the reason for your happiness.
Yes.
Okay. But is this 25 basis points actually going to move the needle at all in terms of rates down the line? Will EMIs fall?
Not much. So I think typically transmission itself to lending rates takes a couple of quarters, I think. That is what research shows. And 25 basis points really won't reduce your EMI too much. But at least we can be happy that rates won't go up any further and banks will not have an excuse to hike your lending rates, right?
Basically, the rate cycle has turned.
Yes.
The last hike was May 22. Rather, the first hike in this hike cycle was May 22.
Yeah.
So that's almost 3 years.
Yeah, and the last time we saw the cut was May 2020, height of COVID, when it came down to 4%.
Correct.
And from there, we've gone all the way to 6.5%. And
Yes. But the new governor, very interesting.
Yeah.
The body language was very different from what we have been used to the last 6 years under Shaktikanta Das, and some coincidences or similarities I would like to point out, when Mr. Das took over, his first policy, February 2019, 6.5 to 6.25.
Same thing, right?
Same thing right now. And in the next policy, in April 2019, he cut from 6.25 to 6. Again, there are expectations that in the next policy, this governor will also cut from 6.25 to 6.
Yes.
So that's and both have been finance secretaries, the government.
I never thought.
Isn't it?
Yes.
That's some similarity to start with.
Yeah.
But I only hope that Mr. Sanjay Malhotra doesn't go on a rate hike cycle like what we saw in the last 2 years.
Yes, I too hope so. Fingers crossed. So, he made some very complicated statements in his prelude, right?
Yeah.
In fact, this time he didn't start off straight away with the policy. In fact, governors like to announce, at least Governor Das used to immediately announce what the MPC decided. But he started off with some long opening statement and he made some very complicated points there.
He was talking about the flexible inflation targeting system, framework rather. But the interesting point is Aarti, I'll just read out the line which caught my eye. He says, we will continue to improve the macroeconomic outcomes in the best interest of the economy using the flexibility embedded in the framework while responding to the evolving growth inflation dynamics. In one way, you can interpret it as saying the obvious. That's what the FIT is. But in another way, looking at...
If you read between the lines, I'm wondering, until last policy, Governor Das used to talk of an inflation target of 4%. In fact, that is what spooked the markets because all the inflation prints would come in at 5%, 5.2, etc. would never approach 4%. So it was interpreted as very hawkish because if inflation never gets close to RBI's target, then where will the cuts come? But here, if you read the MPC statement also, there is no mention of that 4%. There is just the mention of the band of 4 plus or minus 2%.
Correct.
Which gives a lot of elbow room, right, to the MPC. 2 to 6% is a band that is easy to achieve.
Correct.
Right?
And while talking about the FIT, the Flexible Inflation Targeting Framework, the fact that he brought in the phrase growth inflation dynamics,
absolutely,
that itself is significant, isn't it? That he's sending out the signal that we will look at growth going forward as sharply as we look at inflation. That's how I read it. But we need to watch the space, how it goes. But, central bank governor statements, people read between the lines.
Yeah.
And every word is interpreted.
Yeah.
So this is, I thought, that's probably why he had that paragraph on FIT before reading on the monetary policy.
It was a bit intriguing. He also said how monetary policy statements are tracked by so many people and all kinds of things, he said, right?
Yeah.
There's
another line that I want to bring to your attention, he was talking about in the context of regulatory changes, right? And he said economic interest warrants increasing efficiency, which too is our duty. We recognize that just like there are no free lunches, regulation to enhance stability and consumer protection too is not devoid of costs. There are trade-offs between stability and efficiency, and we will keep this trade-off in mind while formulating regulations.
That's quite a mouthful to digest. What do you think it means?
No, I think he's talking about the impact of regulations on the regulated entities. There's been a lot of complaints about how the RBI's crackdown on NBFC lending
Retail.
to fintechs and to fintechs itself last year in 23. That led to a slowdown and that caused their businesses to go on a down cycle.
Yeah.
So he's probably hinting at that. But it could also mean in the context of what he said in the press conference. Very interesting. I don't know whether you watched the press conference. He didn't say this in the monetary policy statement.
Okay.
In the press conference, he mentioned that this LCR, liquidity coverage ratio, and ECL, expected credit loss. The LCR was supposed to kick in from
2025 April.
1st April, right? So he said this at least until 31st March 2026, we don't see this happening. At least, which means he's giving the minimum is 31st March 2026, go beyond that. And that's, I thought, significant because banks have been
complaining about it.
Yes, that they didn't have.
Now I can vaguely see the relevance of that efficiency versus stability.
Yeah.
I think when banks work, basically the LCR regulation says that banks need to maintain at least 30 days worth of outflows in liquid assets. Now in India already we have SLR, CRR to ensure liquidity. Yeah. So banks were sort of cribbing that why do you need this additional thing? And every time you make banks hold liquid assets, they have less money for lending.
Correct.
There is a trade-off between stability and efficiency there.
Correct. Likewise with ECL, expected credit loss as well.
Yeah.
Banks, there's nothing beyond a discussion paper.
Yeah.
And banks were very nervous that it would be brought in very soon. So he's made it very clear that ECL is not going to happen anytime soon, and there'll be lots of discussions and all the views of the regulated entities will be taken in before they form the policy.
Good.
That's probably what he means by we'll keep this trade-offs in mind while formulating regulations. Yeah. I think that's a nice approach to have.
Yeah. In fact, even one of the government's monthly economic reports had mentioned that one of the reasons for the slowdown was this tightening of retail credit.
Correct. That was one of the, I think it was the December or January one. I want to talk to you about this rupee.
Yeah.
He also stated the obvious position of the Reserve Bank, which has been a traditional position over the years. And the position being that their objective is to maintain orderliness and stability without compromising market efficiency, and that their interventions in the forex market will be only to smoothen excessive and disruptive volatility. It's not to target any specific exchange rate.
Right.
Now, do you understand the significance of this?
Not really. Earlier, RBI was intervening in the forex market, actually selling dollars, and people were saying this is causing this liquidity deficit. And recently, they've not been doing it. So, how do you correlate that to this?
See, I should go back a little into history. When the cycle turned in May 22, May 22 was not a cycle policy at all. It's out of cycle policy.
Yeah.
And it was done because the RBI was nervous that Fed was meeting that night.
Yeah.
And the RBI was nervous that Fed would hike rates, and that would cause a run on the rupee. So they overnight called a MPC meeting and they hiked rates in India by 40 bips. That was the start of the rate hike cycle.
Correct. Yeah.
And that was meant to preempt any market nervousness from the Fed raises. But that sent out the signal, though the Reserve Bank denied officially in every press conference the governor was asked this question. The signal that went out was interest rate will be used as a tool to defend the currency, which is not a good idea. Interest rate should be used only for monetary policy purposes in India. You can't use it to defend your currency abroad because it's a kind of a blunt tool. Because whatever you do now, if Trump does something tomorrow, your tool is going to be blunted. So I think this is a good observation by the governor. And the signal he's probably sending out is that we will not use interest rate as a tool to defend the rupee.
Yes, it's very sensible because, yes, recently we've had capital outflows and the rupee has also depreciated and there's a lot of alarm and panic about it. But one, rupee depreciation helps our export competitiveness, which is what we want in times such as this. And secondly, who knows how long Trump will keep actually juggling his policies and causing this mayhem, right? So we cannot afford to wait to stimulate growth as long as Trump is on with his policy. So I think it's better that they ignore that and sort of act, isn't it?
Yeah. So all in all, I thought it was a good start for the new governor, right?
Yes, it was.
He started off on a cheerful note, making all his constituents happy with the rate cut and making all the right statements that
setting the tone for the
talking about how we will not excessive regulation will not be there, and that was good.
But there's one thing I really missed, which I used to look forward to with Governor Das.
I know what that is.
Tell me.
The Mahatma Gandhi quote at the end.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So don't worry, Aarti. I have a quote. The new governor didn't say that, but I have a quote ready for you.
Okay.
Let's end, because the governor didn't say that we shouldn't miss the tradition, right?
Yes.
So we will use it.
Yes.
So this quote by Mahatma Gandhi says, whatever you do will be insignificant, but it is very important that you do it.
Very apt, because a 25 basis point cut may not move the needle.
Exactly.
But it's very significant for the future.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. On that note.
So let's go back to our writing.
Let's go back to our work.
Yes.